Listen, you're probably cringing right now and I don't blame you because I know my teenage self would rather swallow bleach than be caught dead in this blazer that we're making today. But you know what? Even if it does contain one of the most loathed fashion trends from the last 40 years, I think it's going to be fabulous. Sorry, teenage selves. Scream in terror all you want. It's time for some power sleeves. Good morning, my friends. It is time to start on the Beetlejuice blazer. We're gonna be using a true vintage pattern, even though it kills me to say that because this is from the 80s. And guess who else is from the 80s? Here it is. And yes, we're going full shoulder pad on this. Now, I have been putting this off for several weeks. It's kind of a big task because unfortunately, with this being a true vintage pattern, the largest size that I could find, and they are single size patterns, BT dubs, is 3 sizes too small for me. So not only am I gonna have to cut all this out, but I'm gonna have to completely enlarge all of it. It's a lot of work, but let's face it, you're not here to watch me adjust and readjust seam allowances. You're here to watch me torture my former self with one of the Western world's most loathed fashion trends. So let's don some period appropriate apparel, cue some period appropriate music, and do it in a montage. So I was really happy with the way that the front looked, but it was fitting me with basically no ease. Since the final jacket is going to be going over several layers of clothing, and in addition, it's going to have several more layers of fabric and structure to it, I decided I needed to give myself a little bit more space. So I went ahead and let out the seam by a full 1/2 inch on each side to give myself a full 2 inches extra room. I think that I'm ready to transfer my small changes to the real pattern and then cut it out on some bigger paper, make the changes on the other lining pieces, and cut it out of the fashion fabric. Also, for those of you who watched my little sewing room tour, you know that my biggest problem is these stupid thread bins. I recently went on vacation and I visited my folks, and I was hell-bent and determined to take my thread organizer back with me. But it was so large, it didn't fit in my very large suitcase. Oh, so I bought a thread organizer. Yay! I got it from Wawa. It was only about 30 bucks. It holds 120 spools of thread. It's gonna make my life so much easier. Also, it came in this fabulous box, which I'm gonna use to make my Beetlejuice drum, but that's another video. Also, the temptation to sit in the box that it came in is real, y'all. I am struggling not to.
12 seconds later.
Meanwhile, I ran some pad stitching along the roll line of the undercollar interfacing. The instructions don't call for this, but you know, sometimes one can't help being extra. First order of business is to tackle the 5 gazillion darts in the front of this thing. You'll notice that I've flatlined the striped fabric since this cotton poplin is too lightweight for such a tailored garment. You'd think Beetlejuice striped fabric would be easy to find in natural fibers with a movie coming out, but remember, I did start this in June. To cut down on bulk, you want to clip open the darts on the interfacing and trim them off. Then hand tack the interfacing down and pad stitch the roll line in the center front if you're extra. The instructions start with the scariest part, the welt pockets. In 20 years of professional sewing, I have never sewn a welt pocket. This is the welt, folded in half, wrong sides together. Baste it in place and align the stitching line with the stitching line in the front of your blazer. Now take the flap. Oh no you don't. Match those stripes, you. That's better. Make a flap sandwich. Mistake number 1 of 1000. Should not have included the white interfacing here. It's too bulky. Baste together and then add it to your lining right sides together. I'm the ghostest with the mostest. All right, flaps basted. We've clipped down the flap edges and turned them. Attempt the impossible task of matching stripes over those darts. Now shit gets weird. Once all that's basted on, baste on the pocket over top of everything else, following the marked stitch line. Now we need to cut the line open and hope you haven't screwed up too bad. Oh, I do not like this, Sam, I am. I do not like it. You have completed your welt pocket. I have to admit, that could have turned out better. I mean, this one doesn't want to stay down. It looks pretty messy. I have no idea what I'm supposed to do with these loose ends. On the inside, I ended up tacking down the seam allowance on the top and the bottom of the pocket because they wouldn't lay flat and it looked really ugly. This one looks a little bit better. Now I do intend to compete with this costume at cons, so it does need to look good, but I'm not going to beat myself up about it. This is the first time I've done welt pockets. It's not an easy thing to do. It's a skill I have to learn, and so I'm just gonna leave it as is and move on. Now onto something else I've never done. A butt flap, I mean back vent. This also seemed confusing, but was much less so in practice. Essentially, when you stitch the center back together, you'll also stitch the corner and across the top of the vent. Snip the turn and press open the center seam. Fold the left side where indicated and lap the right side over the top. Then top stitch along the stitch line. Since it's almost impossible to mark over the stripes, I opted to hand baste along the stitch line to make my life easier. Remember this piece from earlier in the video? Let's attach it. I hate trimming and grading, but this is a time where it is 100% necessary. Okay, now this part is weird. There is neck facing that goes onto the back below the collar, and you're going to sew it to the facing of the center front. Never seen this before, which is why I totally sewed it backwards the first time. And made it too big. Derp. But the weird doesn't end there, because instead of sewing the undercollar to the overcollar like a normal pattern, we're going to sew the overcollar to the neck facing? If you're enjoying this video and would like to help support this channel, I've linked to my Ko-fi page down below. A huge thank you to everyone who has donated so far. No donation is too small, and everything goes right back into keeping this channel running. Alternatively, giving this video a thumbs up and leaving me a jack-o'-lantern in the comments also helps get this video out to people like you. Okay, now we get to deal with the sleeves. Also, you gotta love the 1780s hair with the 1980s jacket. There's some kind of weird poetic justice in that. I've been practicing my hedgehog for Chevalier. All right, let's get the sleevels out of the way. Maybe not so evil after all. I do feel like it's maybe a little bit big at the wrist. There's like flappy flap action happening over here, so I think that might get taken down a little bit. But before we get all of the sleeves situated, I have to go sit at the couch, become Potato Jackie, and hand tack down all of the facing. Okay kids, I have made a decision. I've 86'd the lapping on the sleeves. It's too much extra work, my brain hurts, I don't have the spoons. And it's okay, because the sleeves are large enough that I can get my hand in and out without needing to deal with a button. Even though this is only the second piece of this costume you've seen, it's actually the very last thing that I'm doing. And frankly, I'm tired. This project has been completely all-consuming and extremely difficult. And honestly, I've been planning it since 2019. The reason it's taken me 5 years to get this done is because it's difficult. Every single piece is highly advanced, very skilled. I knew it was going to be hard. Pre-shoulder pad, there isn't anything special about these sleeves. Just your basic two-piece with gathering at the shoulder. It is time. Donna, 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 Donna. First thing to note about these suckers, there's a thick side and a thin side. Thin side towards the neck, thick side on the shoulder. Pin in place through the outside. Is that the right spot for them? You know, I honestly don't know. Having never voluntarily worn shoulder pads before, I'm not really sure, but it's centered on the seams, so I think we're gonna go for it. In any case, she's melting into the floor right now. Hand tack the atrocities down and try not to regret your life decisions. There's a lot of hate for stretch knits in this community, but I'll tell you what, folks. I would tackle a knit dress over squidgy silk any day of the week. It took me 3 whole evenings after work to cut out just these 5 pieces of fabric. And if you're wondering why you only see 4 pieces down there, it's because the front lining is going to go off and get a little special treatment, and you won't see it again until our next video when we do the full Beetlejuice. Whoosh. Okay, I guess we need to serge everything and start working on the squidgy stuff. Let's do this. The lining gets attached by hand tacking it down. This is a slow and difficult process with such squidgy silk, but using the habit tie really helps when you're getting the jacket on and off, especially if you've got long sleeves. Good afternoon. It is 2 days since the Chevalier event, and I just got home this morning at 1:30 a.m. The event was amazing. I had so much fun. I got to meet a couple of fans of the channel. I got to meet a bunch of other costumers. It was such a great time, but I am completely dead to the world right now. Not only that, but my sewing room is currently the landing zone for my suitcases because I did not have the energy to unpack them this morning, which is a problem. But we only have one step left to do before we can finish this blazer, so I think we're gonna knock it out. Adding the sleeve lining threw me off because I couldn't figure out how the sleeve head went over the shoulder pads. It didn't seem logical that the lining sleeve head could possibly be the same size as the regular sleeve head, but in the end, it all worked out fine. The one catch to buying cheap button blanks from Wawak is that they don't come with a template, but my experiment with using 1/4-inch seam allowances was successful. Last thing are the buttonholes. I'll likely be wearing this thing unbuttoned most of the time so you can see my stays underneath, but it's good to have the option to close it. My teenage self is mortified, but my adult self is well pleased. I love the way it turned out. I'm especially excited about the fun lining, and I think the shape looks pretty good. But we're not completely done with this blazer. So if you want to see what kind of fun decorations this blazer is going to get, you can check out the final Beetlejuice video right here. Or if you're watching this before that video airs, YouTube is telling me you'd like to watch this one next. Thanks for watching. I love y'all, and I'll catch you in my next video. It's coming out on Halloween.